Her hands trembled as she pulled the worn box from the attic corner, dust rising like ghosts of secrets. Emma whispered, "Why now after all these years?" The box smelled of cedar and forgotten summers. Inside, buried under faded ribbons, lay her childhood diary. Her breath caught as she traced her name, etched in uneven handwriting. A child's hand claiming permanence. Emma said, "I locked this part of me away." The pages fluttered with the weight of years, holding truths she feared and longed for. She opened the diary, ink bleeding from a decade's silence. The first words shook her chest. "I forgive you." She pressed her palm to the page, tears blurring the letters. The attic air grew heavy, pressing memory against her ribs. Emma said, "I never asked, but she already gave it." Her sister's name, Anna, surfaced like a tide. The diary wasn't just her own, it carried Anna's scrawls, her younger laughter now etched in faded ink. Emma whispered, "Was this what you wanted me to find?" A key slipped from the spine, cold metal against her skin. The moment struck like lightning, forgiveness waiting before the question was ever asked. Emma carried the diary downstairs, every creak of the steps a memory echoing. She whispered, "You forgave me before I broke." The living room glowed with late sunlight, but it felt colder in her chest. The diary's spine pressed like a heartbeat against her palm. She remembered Anna's laughter spilling through these walls, now only silence answered. Emma said, "How could I have lost you and still carried this weight?" She sat on the couch, diary resting on her lap, fear mixing with longing. The pages whispered second chances, daring her to believe. The diary pulled her backward, each word a mirror of her past. Emma remembered the night she refused Anna's apology, pride sharper than love. She said, "I thought strength was silence." The memory weighed heavy, Anna's tear-stained face burned into her. Emma opened the diary again, finding Anna's handwriting weaving with her own. The forgiveness written was not for one moment, but for every broken bridge. Emma whispered, "You were braver than me." The house seemed to breathe with her guilt. Emma turned to a page where Anna had written a drawing of two sisters holding hands. Her breath cracked as she said, "You never gave up, did you?" The ink was faded, but the bond was alive in every curve. Emma remembered the laughter they once shared, before silence stole it. She held the diary tighter, as if it might pull Anna back into the room. Emma whispered, "I was the one who walked away." Forgiveness had been waiting here all along, disguised as love. Emma closed the diary slowly, holding the weight of her sister's forgiveness in trembling hands. She said, "This is my second chance, but it will cost me everything." Her reflection in the darkened window stared back, a woman marked by regret, but refusing to hide. The key in her palm pressed sharp, a reminder of choice. Emma whispered, "I will find the courage to face her memory, even if it shatters me." The night deepened around her, the silence alive with the promise of repair. Morning broke with pale light crawling through Emma's blinds, but the diary remained heavy on her lap like a stone that refused to be moved. She said, "I thought forgiveness was the ending, but it is only the start." The key pressed against her palm, promising doors yet unopened. Bills lay scattered across the table, reminders of a life waiting beyond grief. Emma sighed. The world doesn't wait for healing. The phone rang, her manager reminding her of a shift she had already missed. Regret flooded, different from Anna's memory, this one tied to survival. Emma whispered, "Every step forward costs double." She rose, diary clutched to chest, and walked out the door. The sky was overcast, clouds sagging like her heart. The world demanded her presence, but inside she carried absence. She tightened her grip and promised, "If I fail today, I will still rise tomorrow." The bus hissed to a stop, doors yawning wide, yet Emma missed it by seconds, her shoes striking pavement too late. She groaned, always chasing, never arriving. The driver shook his head, indifference sharper than cruelty. The diary weighed in her bag like an anchor she couldn't abandon. Emma said, "Even small steps punish me." She leaned against a post, breath fogging in the chilled air, people streaming past without care. The street hummed with life, none of it pausing for her. She thought of Anna, always waiting, always forgiving, and whispered, "Maybe this is what I deserve." The next bus was half an hour away, time bleeding hope. She hugged herself, wishing forgiveness could pay fares or erase lateness, but reality pressed harder. At work, her supervisor Mark loomed by the counter, arms folded, eyes sharp. Mark, 42-year-old male, with short black hair and square jaw, said, "Late again, Emma. We run on time, not excuses." Shame pooled as heat in her cheeks. Emma murmured, "I tried, but he cut her off, but doesn't pay wages." His voice cracked the air with authority, but under it lingered weariness. She wanted to scream that forgiveness lived in ink, not in clocks, but the words would not come. Instead, she bowed her head, muttering, "It won't happen again." Mark studied her, skeptical, but walked away. Emma clenched the diary in her bag, heart pounding. She whispered to herself, "The world remembers every failure louder than every effort." On her break, Emma sat outside on a bench, shoulders hunched, clutching the diary like a lifeline. A figure approached, Sarah, 48-year-old female, with silver streaks in dark hair, warm eyes, and a sturdy coat. Sarah said, "You carry that book like it's armor." Emma forced a weak smile, "Maybe it's more like a wound." Sarah sat, hands steady, presence calm. "Healing isn't a straight path," she said softly. "But you're here, and that matters." Emma exhaled, weight easing for a moment. She whispered, "I'm afraid I'll fail again." Sarah shook her head. "Failure is human. Hiding is fatal." The words landed like anchors of truth. For the first time that day, Emma felt less alone. The shift ended with exhaustion, etched in every limb, yet Emma walked home with the diary pressed firmly against her chest. The streets were alive with neon glow and restless footsteps. She whispered, "I survived the day, but survival is not enough." Each step echoed failure and resilience, twin shadows at her heels. The key clinked in her pocket, reminding her of what still waited. She remembered Anna's words scrawled across faded pages, forgiveness not as gift but as demand. Emma said, "You believed I could change before I did." She reached her door, pausing with hand on the knob, breath unsteady. Tonight she had paid with fatigue, but tomorrow would cost more. She whispered into the night, "I will keep walking, even if the ground breaks beneath me." The office air felt colder than the streets, silence pressing harder than noise. Emma stood before Linda, 50-year-old female, with short blonde hair and glasses, the HR manager holding her file with practiced detachment. Linda said, "Your record shows inconsistency, and trust is built on time, not promises." Emma gripped her diary hidden in her bag, the pages like silent witnesses. She whispered, "I know I've stumbled, but I'm trying." Linda adjusted her glasses, expression unyielding. "Trying is not always enough," she replied, her tone balanced between fairness and finality. The room's fluorescent lights buzzed, amplifying Emma's unease. She thought of Anna's forgiveness inked across fragile pages and muttered to herself, "She believed before anyone else did." Linda's eyes softened briefly, but her words stayed firm. "Bring proof, not apologies." Emma nodded, throat burning, as the weight of her second chance threatened to collapse under rules she could not escape. That evening, Emma left work and walked the dim streets until a familiar voice called out. Jason, 36-year-old male with rugged stubble, leather jacket, and sly grin, leaned against a lamppost. Jason said, "Why keep struggling when you could take the shortcut?" His eyes glimmered with temptation, like old times when rules bent easily. Emma's stomach knotted, the diary pressing into her side like a warning. She whispered, "Shortcuts broke me before." Jason smirked. "But they also fed you, didn't they?" His tone was casual, but his words were sharp. Emma shook her head, shoulders trembling. "Not this time," she said firmly, though doubt clawed inside. Jason shrugged, "Suit yourself, but don't say I didn't offer." His laughter echoed, fading as he walked into the shadows. Emma's breath came ragged, the temptation hanging like smoke. She whispered to herself, I choose repair, not ruin. The next day, Emma met Chloe, 28-year-old female with curly black hair and sharp observant eyes, a coworker who rarely minced words. Chloe leaned on the counter, arms crossed, and said, "You say you've changed, but have you proved it to anyone yet?" Emma flinched, words hitting deeper than intended. She whispered, "I'm trying to." Chloe's gaze was steady, refusing to yield. "Trying isn't the same as showing," she said firmly. Emma felt stripped, as though every excuse had been burned away. The diary in her bag seemed to hum, the inked forgiveness demanding her honesty. Emma muttered, "I failed before, but I'm not the same woman." Chloe's expression softened slightly, but her tone stayed measured. "Then prove it. Actions write louder than words." Emma's chest ached, but for once she did not run from truth. She whispered, "I will." Words spread quickly, whispers clinging to Emma like burrs. At the coffee shop, she heard two patrons murmur about her, their voices sharp enough to cut. A man said, "That's the one who always messes up," and a woman added, "Forgiveness doesn't erase patterns." Emma's stomach twisted as she stirred her drink, hands trembling. The community remembered, and memory was crueler than fact. She whispered, "They don't see the work, only the scars." The diary sat on the table beside her cup, silent yet louder than gossip. Emma closed her eyes, hearing Anna's handwriting echo in her heart. She thought, forgiveness was written, but reputation rewrites itself daily. Her breath shuddered, but she didn't leave. Instead, she lifted her chin slightly, as if daring the world to keep watching. That night, Emma sat at her kitchen table, candlelight flickering against the diary. She opened to a page she had not dared touch, Anna's words spilling in uneven ink. "Forgiveness is not free. It asks you to live it." Emma's chest clenched, the truth landing heavier than before. She whispered, "I thought this was grace, not burden." The key glinted on the table, daring her to unlock more than a door. Every step forward demanded sacrifice she had not counted. Time, trust, humility. Emma muttered, "I wanted a gift, not a price." Yet the words bled with love, not condemnation. She leaned back, eyes burning. "You gave me more than mercy," she said to the empty room. "You gave me responsibility." The silence answered, steady as the flame. Emma turned the diary's brittle pages late into the night until one slipped free, folded and tucked at the back. She unfolded it carefully, breath trembling as she read Anna's handwriting sharper and older than the others. It wasn't a childhood note. It was written just before the accident. Anna wrote, "You think silence keeps you safe, but it only builds walls too high to climb." Emma's hands shook as the words bled across her eyes. She whispered, "She knew I would find this when it mattered most." A date scrawled in the corner revealed it was written the very week Emma had left home. The revelation crashed. Anna's forgiveness wasn't an echo of childhood. It was her final offering before time ran out. Emma muttered, "She wasn't blind to my pride, she named it." The page burned truth sharper than comfort, forcing Emma to see her past cowardice in ink she could no longer erase. The next day, Emma confronted Mark at work, the supervisor who never softened. She said, "I found something that changes what you think of me." Mark, 42-year-old male with short black hair and stern presence, raised an eyebrow. "Words don't erase history." Emma handed him the note, Anna's last forgiveness bleeding across paper. Mark read in silence, his jaw tightening, then loosening. He muttered, "This isn't about your sister, it's about you." Emma felt her chest cave in. She whispered, "But it means she believed I could change." Mark shook his head. "Belief is not proof. You stand here, not her. Do you understand that difference?" His voice cut, but beneath it was a strange current of pity. Emma's shoulders sagged as she realized Anna's faith was a torch she now had to carry alone. That evening, Emma met Sarah again on the bench. The mentor's calm gaze softened as Emma showed her the note. Sarah, 48-year-old female, silver streaked dark hair, read it slowly and exhaled. "She gave you grace before you asked," Sarah said. "But grace is a beginning, not a finish." Emma whispered, It feels like a burden heavier than before. Sarah leaned forward, her tone steady. Then carry it, because it means she trusted you with more than her forgiveness. She trusted you with her hope. Emma's throat tightened, every syllable pressing harder. She muttered, I'm not sure I deserve it. Sarah shook her head, voice firm but kind. Deserve has nothing to do with it. You either live into it, or you waste it. Emma looked at the note, realization dawning that forgiveness demanded not comfort, but courage. Later that night, Emma stared at the note while whispers of the community's judgment rang in her head. She imagined Anna's voice speaking through the ink, reminding her that forgiveness wasn't blind, it demanded truth. In the mirror, Emma saw not just her tired reflection, but the weight of lies she had told herself for years. She whispered, I buried my shame by blaming time. The diary on the table seemed alive, its presence demanding more than apologies. She pressed the note against the mirror, her reflection split by faded ink. Emma muttered, This is not about being forgiven. It's about becoming someone worth forgiving. The realization shattered her, yet steadied her, the dual edge of grace cutting into bone. For the first time, she felt braver, though lonelier, than ever before. The twist of truth left Emma pacing her living room, diary open, note spread on the table, key glinting like an unanswered question. She whispered, earning this means more honesty than comfort. The weight of Anna's words made every past silence feel like betrayal. Emma pressed her hands to her face, realizing the second chance would not come by being pitied, but by living fiercely accountable. The choice was no longer about asking to be seen differently. It was about acting differently daily, painfully, without applause. She whispered, The cost is higher than I dreamed, but so is the prize. In that quiet moment, Emma knew her path forward demanded more loss than safety. And yet, she chose to walk it, even alone. The note lay glowing in lamplight, an oath written in ink and blood of memory. The week pressed heavy, and Emma was summoned again into Linda's office. The HR manager folded her hands, voice even yet sharp. Linda, 50-year-old female with blonde hair, said, One more mistake and you're done here. Emma swallowed, diary heavy in her bag, Anna's note still haunting her. She whispered, I've carried my past like a curse, but I'm trying to turn it into proof. Linda's gaze stayed steady. Proof isn't words, she replied. Emma's chest tightened, the room's fluorescent lights buzzing like a judgmental chorus. She thought of Anna's faith, a final gift demanding action. Emma muttered, I won't waste what she gave me. Linda leaned back, skeptical yet less harsh. Then show me, she said. The demand lingered like a verdict, and Emma left trembling, knowing she had one last chance to hold ground or lose it all. That evening, Jason appeared again, waiting by the corner store with his same sly grin. Jason, 36-year-old male with rugged stubble, said, Why fight uphill when I can clear the path? His words were sugar laced with poison. Emma's jaw tightened as she whispered, Shortcuts rot everything they touch. Jason chuckled, leaning closer, but they save you from being crushed. One call, one favor, and you're free of all this judgment. His voice dangled temptation like a key to an easier door. Emma pressed Anna's note against her chest inside her coat. She muttered, Freedom bought dirty isn't freedom at all. Jason's grin faltered, his eyes narrowing with something like pity. He said softly, Then don't cry when they break you. He walked away, shadow stretching longer than his frame. Emma trembled, temptation clawing, yet her refusal was fierce. The following morning, Chloe confronted her near the staff lockers. Chloe, 28-year-old female with curly black hair, folded her arms, eyes sharp as glass. You're quieter these days, she said, but silence doesn't equal change. Emma stiffened, guilt stirring. She whispered, I've been facing things I buried. Chloe tilted her head, expression cutting. Then stop hiding behind words. Prove it. Emma clenched the diary in her bag, her pulse roaring in her ears. She muttered, I'm terrified of proving nothing. Chloe's tone softened just slightly, but her stance stayed strong. Then let fear make you honest, not smaller, she said. The locker room felt like a courtroom, each word a sentence shaping Emma's resolve. She exhaled, whispering, "I will live it, not speak it." For the first time, Chloe nodded faintly, an unspoken acknowledgement of a battle just beginning. By evening, exhaustion pressed Emma into her chair, diary open before her, the faded note glowing under lamplight. She whispered, "I thought forgiveness was a gift, but it's a debt too." The words cut her deeper, for every step forward demanded cost. The key on the table gleamed, as though it could open more than a lock. Emma muttered, "Anna trusted me with more than I trusted myself." Her reflection in the window showed hollow eyes, but a flicker of steel. She pressed her hand to the page, whispering, "I will not dishonor this faith." The silence answered, heavy and unyielding. In that moment, she accepted that her second chance demanded sacrifice, time, trust, and scars shown openly. The weight felt unbearable, yet her spine straightened against it. She whispered, "The price is mine to pay." The next day, Emma stood at the edge of the community center, where Anna's old friends gathered for a memorial meeting. Whispers stirred as she entered, eyes scanning, judgment thick. She held the diary close, heart hammering. She whispered, "This is the test I cannot escape." A man muttered, "Why is she here?" A woman hissed, "She never showed up when it mattered." Emma's throat burned, but she stepped forward, shoulders straight. She whispered, "I will not let silence write my story again." The room quieted under the weight of her presence. The diary trembled in her hand like a living thing. Anna's forgiveness pulsed in her memory, urging her forward. Emma muttered, "This is where I prove the cost is worth paying." Every gaze pierced, but she did not retreat. Her second chance stood at the threshold of truth. The community center air was thick with silence as Emma stepped forward, diary pressed tight. Faces blurred into judgmental shadows, yet one detail cut sharp, a chair left empty at the front, Anna's chair. Emma whispered, "This is where I break or begin." Sarah, 48-year-old female, silver-streaked hair, watched from the side, her gaze urging without words. Emma's heart pounded, her throat raw as if every excuse she had ever made was lodged there. She opened the diary, hands trembling, and said, "These pages hold what I buried, what Anna gave before I even asked." Murmurs rippled, suspicion weighing heavy. Emma whispered, "I denied her love once. I will not deny her truth again." The silence closed tighter, waiting for what would come next. Mark, 42-year-old male with sharp presence, rose from the audience, arms crossed, voice steady but heavy. "Why now, Emma? Why bring this after years of silence?" His words struck like gavel blows. Emma's chest burned as she whispered, "Because silence cost me more than I could pay." Mark's eyes narrowed, yet something flickered there. Not cruelty, but doubt. She held up Anna's note, voice cracking, "She forgave me before I asked. I cannot keep living as if that means nothing." The crowd shifted, whispers threading through the air like fire. Mark muttered, "Forgiveness without proof is a shadow." Emma's tears fell freely, but her spine stayed tall. She whispered, "Then let me step into the light." The weight of judgment pressed harder as Chloe, 28-year-old female with curly black hair, stood and spoke. "Emma," she said firmly, "truth isn't a speech, it's a life." Her voice rang clear, cutting the air. Emma nodded, whispering, "Then let me begin it here." She opened the diary to the drawing of two sisters holding hands. "Anna wrote this when we were children," Emma said, voice trembling. "I failed her in life, but I will not fail her in memory." Chloe's eyes softened, her arms uncrossing as if belief cracked through doubt. The room leaned forward, the air pulsing with fragile possibility. Emma whispered, "I will not ask for blind trust. I will earn it, one day at a time." Jason appeared at the back of the hall, his smirk gone, his eyes shadowed. Jason, 36-year-old male, rugged stubble, called out, "You really think they'll let you start over? They'll never forget." His words cut sharp, temptation dressed as truth. Emma's body trembled, but her voice rose. "I'm not asking them to forget," she said. "I'm asking myself to stop hiding." Jason shook his head, disappointment curdling into bitterness. Sarah stood, her voice steady. Second chances aren't given, they're lived. The room hushed, everyone holding their breath. Emma whispered, "I will live mine even if it costs me everything." The silence after was deeper than noise, binding her words into the floor. Emma closed the diary with both hands, tears streaking but voice clear. "I choose truth, even if it leaves me alone," she said. The note lay on the table before the crowd, her offering stripped of excuses. Mark lowered his arms, gaze softened. Chloe bowed her head, silent acknowledgement. Jason turned away into shadow. Sarah whispered, "You've begun." The hall seemed smaller, yet the weight lifted from Emma's chest felt vast. The irreversible choice had been made, not for applause, but for survival of her soul. She whispered, "Forgiveness is not mine to hold, it is mine to honor." The final sound was the echo of the diary's cover shutting, a door closed behind her, another waiting ahead. Morning light broke softer than the night before, spilling warmth across Emma's small kitchen table. The diary lay closed, the note folded carefully within. She whispered, "I spoke truth, and still I stand." The silence was no longer crushing but steady, like a floor rebuilt. She brewed coffee, each movement deliberate, proof of life carried on. The key rested near the mug, its metallic gleam a quiet reminder of responsibility not yet finished. Emma said, "The past no longer drags me down, it drives me forward." She sipped slowly, her body tired but unburdened. Forgiveness had not erased weight, but it had transformed it into work she could hold. She whispered, "Anna, I will live it, one day at a time." The ordinary moment felt holy, fragile, and real. Later, she walked to Sarah's bench where the mentor waited as though expecting her. Sarah, 48-year-old female, silver-streaked hair, smiled faintly and said, "You carried it into the open. That's where change starts." Emma sat, shoulders lighter. She whispered, "I was terrified, but silence was worse." Sarah's gaze softened. "Fear is honest, it means you care enough to risk." Emma leaned back, eyes lifting toward the autumn trees swaying above. She said, "I don't know how many people will forgive me, but I know I can live in truth now." Sarah nodded, voice quiet. "That's more than most ever do." Their silence together was not empty, it was peace, earned and fragile. At work, Chloe approached her quietly during break, arms no longer folded but relaxed. Chloe, 28-year-old female, curly black hair, said, "You showed up last night. That mattered." Emma blinked, startled by the shift. She whispered, "I thought everyone hated me for speaking." Chloe smirked faintly. "They might, but they also saw you own it." Emma exhaled, the relief sharp and cleansing. She said, "It wasn't strength, it was fear turned forward." Chloe nodded, voice softening. "Fear can be good when it makes you real." For the first time, Emma felt her effort reflect back as something tangible, fragile yet true. She whispered, "Then I'll keep showing up, no matter how long it takes." Chloe simply said, "Good." That evening, Emma sat by the attic window, the diary on her lap. She opened to the childlike drawing of two sisters holding hands. She whispered, "Anna, I see you now." The fading ink no longer felt like loss, it felt like a tether. She placed the key beside the page, her fingers resting on both. Emma said, "Forgiveness was always here, but living it is mine to do." The attic's golden dust swirled in the setting sun, memory alive yet not crushing. She closed her eyes, breathing deep. For the first time, she didn't wish to erase the past, she wished to honor it. The silence answered with peace, not punishment. Night settled, quiet and deep. Emma stood by her front window, diary and note set gently on the table behind her. The reflection staring back was no longer only haunted, it was whole, scarred but steady. She whispered, "I cannot undo what was lost, but I can live what remains." Her voice carried finality, not despair. She pressed her hand against the glass, feeling the cool night air seep through. She whispered again, softer, Second chances are not free. She paused, breath steady. But I've paid, and I will keep paying. The silence wrapped around her like an oath. She turned away, leaving her reflection behind, stepping forward into tomorrow.